Welcome to Tenuous Connections, Part 7. In this episode, I will be making, you guessed right, tenuous connections between disparate topics such as Hugh Gaitskell, the Third Reich, the Byzantine Empire, Constantine, Constantine XI, and Jorge Luis Borges. This is by far the woolliest and most tenuous video I've made so far. Are you ready for it? I know I am. The Labour Party conference of 1962, then party leader Hugh Gaitskell made a speech opposing entry into the European Economic Community. At the time, Conservative Prime Minister Harold Macmillan tried to negotiate entry with Charles de Gaulle, opposed British entry into the common market. De Gaulle distrusted Britain as it had special security information with the United States, and it would not divulge this to the European community. Indeed, Britain would join the EEC once de Gaulle left the French presidency and when he was replaced with more congenial Pompidou. In the Labour Party conference of 1962, leader Hugh Gaitskell opposed entry. He claimed that it was the end of the nation-state and the end of 1,000 years of history. This upset his acolytes, who were known as Gaitskellites. Politicians such as Roy Jenkins, Anthony Crosland, and Judge Brown were sophisticated cosmopolites and internationalists. Indeed, they later secured Britain's entry into the EEC in 1973 when Roy Jenkins defied the party whip and led a substantial number of Labour MPs to support British entry. Without the support of these rebellious Europhile Labour MPs, Prime Minister Edward Heath would not have been able to push through British entry through Parliament. Was it the end of 1,000 years of history? This leads me on to another tenuous connection. The Nazi Party wanted the Third Reich to last for 1,000 years. It only lasted for 12 years. It spluttered out rather prematurely. Bismarck's unified Germany lasted from 1871 until 1918. Then the tumultuous Weimar Republic lasted from 1918 until 1933. The Nazis were rather grandly harking back to the Holy Roman Empire, which did last for about 1,000 years. Indeed, the Nazis embedded pagan iconography and folklore into their ideology. Adolf Hitler recruited architect Alfred Speer to build vast elaborate cities. Speer later reflected, "I saw in a few seconds what I had been blind to for years. A plan lacked a sense of proportion." Of course, the Nazis harbored an infantile fantasy. Are there any civilizations that lasted for 1,000 years? Of course there are. The Byzantine Empire. Constantinople was the capital city of the Roman Empire from 330 until 395. Then it became the Byzantine Empire from 395 until 1204, briefly interrupted by the Crusades between 1204 and 2061, and then finally brought to the end by the invasion of the Ottomans, which instituted the Ottoman Empire. The Byzantine Empire preserved European culture and civilization for thousands of years, as the Roman Empire withered away. The University of Constantinople stored Latin and Greek texts, and the Imperial Library contained remains of the 100,000 volumes which had been stored in the Library of Alexandria. It also stored relics of Christianity, such as the Crown of Thorns and the True Cross. It was the wealthiest city in Europe, and its prosperity was engendered by being between Europe and Asia, and in between the Mediterranean and Black Sea. It was also famous for its architecture, such as the Hagia Sophia and the Cathedral of the Eastern Orthodox Church. The Byzantine Empire was enclosed a fortress which enclosed domes, palaces, and towers. The city fell to the Ottomans after a 53-day siege, as they had more advanced technology, such as expensive cannons. Entry to the common market might not have brought 1,000 years of history to an end for Britain. The Ottoman invasion really did bring 1,000 years of history to an end for the Ottoman Empire. The Ottoman Empire enjoyed access to Africa, the Mediterranean, and the Black Sea, and it was situated in Europe, Asia, the Danube, the Euphrates. It seems created specifically to receive the wealth of the four corners of the earth. Constantinople made Christianity the official religion of the Roman Empire, and Constantinople, now known as Istanbul, became a Christian city in 325, although there was a brief period when Julian the Apostate attempted to reverse it between 361 and 363. He bestowed legal privileges upon the Christian Church. Prior to this, the Roman Empire had attempted to suppress Christianity, destroying churches, burning Christian writings, and imprisoning, torturing, and killing thousands of Christians. When Constantinople was created, Constantine named it Nova Roma, though it was always named Constantinople in his honor. In its inauguration, its lavish celebrations included a strange blend between pagan and Christian practices. A column had been erected in his honor, and the tall structure had been surmounted with a golden statue taken from a temple of Apollo and recurved to look like Constantine. Constantine still kept several pagan statues and did not attempt to renovate the pagan buildings. While he was alive, Constantine regarded himself as the second coming of Christ, although this notion did not continue after he died. Constantine XI was the last Byzantine emperor. Since some historians view the Byzantine Empire as being a medieval continuation of the Roman Empire, some people view his death as being the end of 1,500, not 1,000 years of history. Most historical accounts agree that Constantine XI died the day the Byzantine Empire fell, and that he died fighting after he led the last charge against the Ottomans. He later became known in Greek folklore as the Marble Emperor, as a popular legend circulated for centuries which said that he had not died and that he had been rescued by an angel and turned into marble, and that he was hidden underneath the Golden Gate of Constantinople, and that he was waiting for a call from God so that he could reconquer the city and the old empire. The Byzantine Empire lasted for 1,000 years. It started and ended with the two Constantines. Indeed, the Argentinian writer Jorge Borges wrote about Ulysses by James Joyce, which was published in the 1920s, and Ulysses by Homer, which was published during the Bronze Age, 2,000 years before Jesus Christ. Borges wrote that Joyce has ended up creating Homer, as Joyce made us see new things in Homer we had not seen before. He ended up supplanting him thousands of years after his death. Similarly, Constantine XI ended up supplanting first Constantine.